Hello dear students, today's topic of my lecture is normal subgroups and quotient groups or factor groups. So in last lecture we discussed about cosets, so now we are going to define normal subgroups. So if G be a group and H be any subgroup of G, and if we take small h belonging to capital H and small x belonging to capital G be any two elements, then H is said to be normal subgroup of G if X has X, H, X inverse type of elements in capital H. If this type of element belongs to capital H, then that's a normal subgroup. So this implies X, capital H, X inverse type of elements will be contained in H. Then that subgroup is called normal subgroup. Every subgroup has at least two normal subgroups, one H itself and subgroup consisting of identity. That is, these type of subgroups are called improper normal subgroups. All the other normal subgroups are called proper normal subgroups. If a group have no normal subgroup, proper normal subgroup, that is, it has only improper normal subgroups, then that type of group is called simple groups. Since we know every group of prime order is simple, every group of prime order is simple since it has no proper normal subgroup. As we in last lecture I discussed about Lagrange's theorem, which says that order of subgroup is a divisor of order of group. Since group is of prime order, so it divisible only by plus minus 1 or plus minus itself. So it has only two subgroups, either E or G itself. That is, all the subgroup will be improper. So this type of subgroup will be a simple group since it has no proper normal subgroup. Now we discuss some of the theorems, and the very first theorem is a subgroup H of a group G is normal if and only if X, H, X inverse equal to capital H. Let H be a normal subgroup of G. So by definition, X, H, X inverse is contained in H. Already we have defined in definition. So let it be equation number 1 for all X belonging to G. This property holds. Now X is element of G and G is a group, so X inverse belongs to G, such that we have this property where E is the identity of the group. So by definition of inverse in G, X inverse H, X inverse whole inverse will be contained in G, contained in H. So this implies X inverse H and inverse to inverse will be X. This will be a subset of H. So now we have, by operating both sides by X and X inverse on both sides, we get by associativity, we can easily have H is contained in X, H, X inverse, which is equation number 2. So combining 1 and 2, we have the result for this theorem. Conversely, let X, H, X inverse is equal to H. So X will be H, X, H, X inverse will be contained in H. So by definition, it will be a normal subgroup. So this is the first theorem. Now we move to the second theorem, which says that a subgroup H of a group G is normal subgroup of G if and only if each left coset of H in G is a right coset of H in G, irrespective of abelian group. It has commutativity or not, but this property holds, that is, H will be a subgroup of group G and this subgroup will be normal if and only if each left coset of H in G is a right coset of H in G. In the last session, in the last lecture, I have discussed about cosets. So let H be a normal subgroup of G. So by theorem 1, we have X, H, X inverse is equal to capital H for all X belonging to G. So now we operate X, now we post multiply both sides of this equation by X. And now on the left hand side by associativity we get this, and since X and X inverse are inverses, both are inverse, so this will be equal to E, and easily we have XH is equal to HX. XH is left coset, HX is right coset. So each left coset of H in G is equal to right coset of H in G if it is normal. Now we prove converse part. So suppose each left coset of H in G is a right coset of H in G. So we have to show H is a normal subgroup. So let small x be any arbitrary element of G, then xy is equal to hy for some y belonging to G, since each left coset is equal to each right coset. Since E belongs to H, so xe will be in H. So xe will be in x belongs to small xh, as xe is equal to x, E is the identity element. So by 1, we have assumed that xh is equal to hy. So this x belongs to hy. And this implies hx is equal to hy. By theorem of coset, if A belongs to HB, this implies HA is equal to HB. This is an important theorem of cosets. So by using that theorem, we can say that hx is equal to xh. So for all x belonging to G, now we post multiplying both sides of this equation by x inverse and using associativity on the left hand side, we get He is equal to xh x inverse, and easily we have H is equal to xh x inverse. And by the theorem 1, if this thing happens for any subgroup, then that subgroup will be a normal subgroup. So it is a normal subgroup, so converse part is proved. So this is the converse part. Now we are moving to the third theorem, which is very important theorem, that intersection of two subgroups is a intersection of two normal subgroup is a subgroup. We have already seen that in the lecture of subgroups, that intersection of two subgroups is a subgroup. Now we have to extend that theorem and we have to show intersection of two normal subgroup is a normal subgroup. So let G be a group and H1 and H2 be two normal subgroups of G. Since H1 and H2, each normal subgroup is a subgroup, so H1 and H2 both are subgroup. And we already have proved that intersection of two subgroup is a subgroup. So this implies H1 intersection H2 is also a subgroup of G. Now we have to show that this H1 intersection H2 is normal, so we can prove the theorem. So let us, to show this is a normal subgroup, to show this is a normal subgroup, let n belongs to H1 intersection H2, n be any number, belongs to H1 intersection H2. This implies n belongs to H1 and n belongs to H2 since it is an intersection. So n belongs to H1 and H2 is a normal subgroup. So this implies xn x inverse belongs to H1. Since n belongs to H1 and H1 is a normal subgroup, so xn x inverse belongs to H1. This is the property of normal subgroup. And now n belongs to H2 and H2 is a normal subgroup. So xn x inverse belongs to H2, where x is any arbitrary element of G. So by these, xn and x inverse belongs to H1 and H2 both. So it will be in intersection. So this implies H1 intersection H2 is a normal subgroup of G. This is a very important theorem. Now we have a property that every subgroup of an abelian group is normal. So it is obvious, we have already shown that for normal subgroup, each left coset is a right coset. In case of abelian group, left coset and right coset are same. So it is automatically can be proved. But now the proof of the theorem, this example that G be an abelian group and H be a subgroup of G, let X belongs to G be arbitrary and let small h belongs to capital H. So we have X, H, X inverse by using, this is abelian group. So first of all, we take this in this bracket by associativity, and this XH is equal to HX as G is abelian. So we can take this, and now again using associativity, we can take it H out of the bracket. So this will be X, X inverse. X, X inverse will be E, so our HE will be equal to H. So we have what? X, H, X inverse is equal to H. So this implies H is normal. We have taken subgroup abelian and we have shown that every subgroup of an abelian group is normal. So this is about the normal subgroups. And now definition of conjugate elements. Two elements of any group G as A and B. Let A and B be two elements of group G. Then B is said to be conjugate element of A if there exists any element X belonging to G such that B can be expressed in the form of X inverse AX. And it is denoted by B is conjugate to A. This relation of conjugacy is a equivalence relation. You know about equivalence relation. It will be reflexive, symmetric, and transitive. You can easily show. Now the next topic is what? Normalizer of an element of group. So now we are going to define the normalizer. If A small a be any element of G, then Na is said to be normalizer of A in G if it is the set of all element of G which commute with A. That means what? If A be any element, then the elements of G which commutes with A, that is AX is equal to XA. Those type of elements are called, the set of all those elements is called normalizer of set. It is denoted by Na, and mathematically you can say Na is those X of G which are commutative with A. XA is equal to AX. Then that set Na, which is obviously a subset of G, is called normalizer of set, normalizer of the group. Now some theorems about this normalizers. The normalizer Na of a group G is a subgroup of G. So we know about subgroup, and to prove a subset to be subgroup, we have already shown a theorem in lecture of subgroup that A belongs to H, B belongs to H implies AB inverse belongs to H. This is the necessary and sufficient condition for any subset to be a subgroup. So let us assume that X1 and X2 belongs to Na, and we have to show that X1 into X2 inverse belongs to Na, then it will be a subgroup. So let X1 and X2 belongs to Na be arbitrary element. That means what? X1 will commute with A and also X2 will commute with A. So X1A is equal to AX1 and X2A is equal to AX2. To show Na is a subgroup of G, X2 belongs to Na implies X2 inverse belongs to Na. Now this X2A is equal to AX2. This implies what we have done, we have multiplied by X2 inverse on both sides, on the pre-multiplication and post-multiplication, and now we are using associativity. So we have proved that AX2 inverse is equal to X2A inverse. That means what? If X2 commute with A, then X2 inverse will also commute with A. Or if X2 inverse commute with A, then it will be in Na. So X2 inverse belongs to Na. Now X1 belongs to Na and X2 inverse belongs to Na. We have to show X1, X2 inverse belongs to Na. Now for that, X1, X2 inverse, if we can show that X1, X2 inverse commute with A, then it will be in Na. So we consider AX1, X2 inverse. By associativity, it can be written as AX1 equal to X2 inverse and AX1 is equal to X1A since X1 belongs to normalizer. So it will be equal to X1A, X2 inverse, and now by associativity this can be written as this, and this is equal to, again using the property that X2 inverse is also X2 inverse is also normalizer in the set of normalizer. So it commute with A. So you can write AX2 inverse as X2 inverse A, and this will be equal to X1 X2 inverse A. So that shows that the X1 X2 inverse commutes with A. So this implies X1 X2 inverse is a normalizer. So normalizer is a subgroup of G. That is the theorem. Now we define the self-conjugate element. An element A of a group G is said to be a self-conjugate if and only if there exists a small x belonging to G such that A equal to X inverse AX. That means what? For all x belonging to G. That is, XA is equal to AX. Then that is called self-conjugate element. So now one more very important definition, that is center of a group. Center of a group is what? If the set Z of all self-conjugate elements of a group G. We have defined self-conjugate element here. AX is equal to XA. Then that type of elements are called self-conjugates. So the set Z of all self-conjugate elements of a group G is called center of group. That is, it will be what? A Z belonging to capital G such that ZX is equal to XZ for all x belonging to G. Then that is called the center of group. So now we define one theorem on center. The center of a group is a normal subgroup. So to show a subgroup is a normal subgroup, first of all we show that set is a subgroup, and then we show it is normal subgroup. So let Z be a, now first we show Z is a subgroup of G. So let Z1 and Z2 be any arbitrary element of Z, and we know that to show some set a subgroup, we have to show A belongs to H, B belongs to H, implies AB inverse belongs to H. So that's, we are using Z1, Z2 belongs to Z, capital Z, and we will show that Z1, Z2 inverse belongs to capital Z. So that will be the theorem. So for this, Z1 and Z2 belongs to capital Z. By the definition of center, if any element belongs to capital Z, then it will commute with X. So Z1 will commute with X. So Z1X is equal to XZ1. And also Z2 will commute with X. So XZ2 is equal to Z2X is equal to XZ2. To show Z is a subgroup, we first of all we show Z2 inverse belongs to capital Z. Now small z2 belongs to capital Z implies Z2X is equal to XZ2 for all x belonging to G. Now Z2 inverse, since Z is a set taken from G, so this Z2 will also be in G, and G is a group, so Z2 inverse will be in G. So by operating Z2 inverse on both sides of this equation, we will get this. Using the commutativity, we have this, and this implies that Z2 inverse also commute with X. So if Z2 commute with X, then Z2 is in center. So now Z2 inverse commute with X, so this implies Z2 inverse belongs to center Z. Now it is left to show that Z1 into Z2 inverse belongs to capital Z. So now we consider Z1 into Z2 inverse in X is equal to Z. By commutativity we get this, and since it commutes, so Z2 inverse X is equal to XZ2 inverse. So this is Z1 X into Z2 inverse. This is XZ1 by commutativity XZ1 into Z2 inverse, and this will be this. So this can be easily show that Z1 into Z2 inverse commutes with X. So it is in capital Z, that is center. So center will be a subgroup. Now it is left to show that it is a normal subgroup. For this, let us consider XZ X inverse. So by associativity, we can write this. Since Z commute with X, so this XZ is equal to ZX. And now commutativity, we get this. And this is equal to ZE. And this ZE implies Z. And we have XZ X inverse equal to Z. That is what? Z is a normal subgroup. We have already defined kernel of homomorphism. You know homomorphism is a mapping where the composition between the two groups preserves. And kernel is what? The set of all those elements of domain of a group, which are mapped onto the identity element of range. That set is called kernel of homomorphism. So we are going to show kernel of a set is a normal subgroup. So by definition, we know kernel is those elements which are mapped onto the identity element. If K belongs to capital K, then image of K will be in E dash, the range group. So let G small g belongs to capital G be arbitrary. So this implies G inverse belongs to G. So consider f of G, K, G inverse. Since f is a homomorphism mapping, so you know every homomorphism mapping preserve composition since both the groups are multiplicative group. So this can be written as Fg into Fk into Fg inverse. But Fk is equal to E dash by the definition of kernel. So this will be E dash. So now E dash is identity of the codomain. So Fg will be an element of codomain. So this will be the identity element. So it will provide you Fg. And by this, Fg into Fg dash will be E dash. So this is equal to E dash. So if image of any elements is identity of the range, then that element belongs to the kernel. So G, K, G inverse belongs to the kernel. So kernel is a normal subgroup of G. That's all about normal subgroup and its relative properties. Now we are going to define the quotient group or factor group. Very important groups in group theory. That is quotient group. Quotient group or, so the definition of quotient group, let H be a normal subgroup of group G, then the set of all right coset or left coset of H in G is known as quotient set, and it is denoted by G by H. So G by H is the set of all right coset of H which are generated by A. So since H is normal and we know in normal subgroups each right coset is equal to left coset, so HA is equal to AH. So now the product of two right coset is a right coset and it is denoted by, let AB belongs to G, then HA into HB is equal to H into AHB, and this is HA and this is HAB. So this is the product of two cosets. So quotient group is what? Quotient group or factor group is what? It is the set of all right coset of a group with respect to a subgroup. So now we have defined some operation of cosets, multiplication of cosets, which if we multiply HA, a right coset, with another right coset of HB, then we always get HA into HB barabar HAB, which is again a right coset. So that means what? The multiplication of two right coset is a closed set. So now we are going to define some theorems. The very first theorem is what? The set of all coset of a normal subgroup, quotient set, forms a group with respect to multiplication of cosets. This is the operation, and we have to show for any subgroup H, the set of all right cosets. This is HA, HB, HC, HE, and so many set. The set of all right cosets of H in G forms a group with respect to multiplication of coset, which is defined by this, and this group will be called quotient group. This group will be called quotient group. First of all, we know about the definition of group from the first lecture. It has to satisfy the four property: closure, associative, identity, and inverse. And one by one we will show it. It can be easily shown. So by the definition of composite mapping, multiplication of coset, HA into HB is equal to HAB. So it is closed. So G by H, that is factor group, is closed with respect to multiplication of cosets. We can easily see the associativity by applying this theorem. Easily we can see that the multiplication of coset is associative over G by H. Since E be any identity, since E be identity element of G, so for all A belonging to G, EA is equal to A is equal to AE. So this implies H is equal to HE is an identity in G by H. So that means what? H, which is HE, is the identity element. So to show this is an identity element, we have to multiply by left and right by HA. So first H into HA is equal to HE into HA, and this is what? This is H of EA, and this is HA. Similarly, we can show this. So H is the identity element of G by H. H or HE is identity element of G by H. Since A be any arbitrary element of G, so the A inverse belongs to G such that this property holds. So HA inverse is the inverse of HA in G by H. We can easily show it. HA into HA inverse by the definition of multiplication of coset, this will be equal to HAA inverse, and AA inverse is E, so this will be HE, then it is equal to H. And here we have already proved that H is the identity element of G by H. So we have done what? Multiplied two cosets and we get the identity of coset. That means this element, and now from left and right we again get this. So this implies when we operate HA inverse with HA on left or right, we get the identity. So HA and HA inverse are the inverses of each other. Since HA is arbitrary, so every element of G by H possesses its inverse in G by H. So G by H forms a group with respect to multiplication of cosets, या product of coset. So this type of group is called quotient groups. This is the definition of quotient group. Now some more property. If G be a group and H be a normal subgroup, then the set of all right coset or all left coset of H in G, that is G by H is equal to HA, forms a group with respect to product of coset. This group is called quotient. This is the definition what we have already proved. Now the first theorem about this is quotient group is this. If G be a finite group and H is any normal subgroup of G, then order of G by H is equal to order of G upon order of H. That is what? Order of G by H is equal to number of distinct right coset of H in G, and this is number of elements in G upon number of elements in H. So this is order of G upon order of H. By Lagrange's theorem, we know it. The order of subgroup is a divisor of order of group. By using this, we can easily take this. Now the second theorem is what? Show that every quotient group of an abelian group is abelian, but the converse is not true. So let us assume G be an abelian group and H be any subgroup of G. So H is a normal subgroup. We have already proved a theorem that for abelian group, every subgroup is a normal subgroup. So let A and B belongs to G, and we have proved the product of two cosets HA in HB is equal to HAB. So it can be written as HAB, and this HAB is equal to HBA. HAB is equal to HBA. Since AB is equal to BA, as this group is abelian, so this will be equal to HB into HA. So this implies HA is equal to HB is equal to HB into HA. So that means it is commutative. So we see that multiplication of cosets is commutative over G by H. That means what? G by H is abelian. So if every quotient group of abelian group is abelian, now we have to show that converse is not true. For this, we have to take an example. Consider P3 be symmetric group of degree 3. We know symmetric group are those groups which are formed by permutation group, And in P3, there will be factorial 3 element. Half will be even permutation, half will be odd permutation, and set of all even permutation again forms a group which is known as alternating group. Since P3 has factorial 3, that is 6 element. So A3 will have factorial 3, 6 by 2, factorial 3 by 2, that is 3 elements. So P3 by A3 is a group of order 2. So it is always abelian. Although P3 is non-abelian, we know by a theorem then that a symmetric group is abelian only for n equal to 2. So P3 is not a abelian group, symmetric group of order of degree 3. So it is not abelian group, but still its subgroup is a normal subgroup. So that is the theorem. The converse is not true. Now we see the natural homomorphism of a group onto its quotient group. We will discuss homomorphism of group in the next lecture. So now just brief information regarding this. Let G be a group and N be a non-normal subgroup of G. Defined a mapping F which is from G to G by N. N is a normal subgroup. Defined by FA is equal to AN. AN means left coset. A belongs to G. Then F is a homomorphism of G onto G by N. We can show it. Homomorphism is what? The mapping where the composition preserves. So composition will preserve between G and G by N. So it is easily can be done. let A and B be any two elements of G. So AB will belongs to G by closure law. F of AB will be what? ABN. And you have seen that HA into HB is equal to HAB by the same property. ABN is equal to NAB. Since N is normal subgroup, so it is abelian. Each left coset is equal to right coset, and NAB will be equal to NA into NB, and this is equal to FA into FB. So FAB is equal to FA into FB. So composition observed. Hence, this mapping is homomorphism mapping. So that's all about quotient groups and normal subgroups and other things. I hope you understand all the things. So thank you.